Welcome to the world of science function. Don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss new stories. Enjoy the listening. Earth's council chambers, once bustling with debate and charged with the energy of a united humanity, stood eerily silent. The council, a conglomeration of the most influential nations and powers on Earth, had long governed the planet's relationships with alien species. But now, those chambers were closed off to the man who once embodied Earth's voice among the stars, Commander Elias Kane. Elias stood at the edge of the exile district, a place where disgraced diplomats and ex-leaders quietly faded into obscurity. His crisp navy blue uniform, still adorned with Earth's golden emblem, seemed like a defiant relic of his better days. Around him, holographic billboards displayed the Council's official announcement, "Banished for reckless endangerment of interstellar peace." The statement was a mix of truth and fabrication, though Elias couldn't care less about the narrative being spun. Across the district, alien species mingled among the human populace, their elongated forms and shimmering skin creating a scene that would have been unimaginable a century ago. The Galactic Concord, a coalition of countless alien civilizations, had opened Earth to interstellar trade and diplomacy, an achievement Elias had fought tooth and nail to secure. Now, the same Concord saw him as a liability. "Guess they never liked humans speaking too loudly," Elias muttered to himself, his tone sharp with bitterness. His musings were interrupted by a tap on his shoulder. Spinning around, he came face to face with Dr. Linnea Torres, his longtime friend and one of Earth's brightest minds. Linnea's hair was tied in a loose bun, her lab coat slightly wrinkled, a sign she had come straight from her lab without pause. In her hands, she held a small, metallic sphere that pulsed faintly with blue light. "I knew I'd find you here," she said, her voice a mix of concern and determination. "You look like a man who's about to throw in the towel." Elias raised an eyebrow. "Not much else to do when the universe's biggest stage just kicked you off." Linnea rolled her eyes. "Spare me the self-pity. I didn't come here to watch you sulk. I came to show you this." She held up the sphere, its glow reflecting in her dark eyes. Elias crossed his arms. "And what's that supposed to be? A stress ball for disgraced diplomats?" "Not quite," Linnea replied. "This is a prototype, a nanite core capable of self-replication and adaptive intelligence. It's the first step in building something they'll never see coming." Elias frowned, intrigued despite himself. "What are you talking about?" Linnea leaned in closer, her voice dropping to a whisper. "A legacy, Elias. If the Council doesn't want us at the table, then we build our own table, one they can't ignore." Elias hesitated. The idea of rebellion, of standing against the very system he had spent decades supporting, felt foreign. But Linnea's determination was infectious, and a spark of defiance began to stir within him. "You're serious about this?" he asked. "As serious as you are about proving them wrong," Linnea said. "Look, I've got a team of engineers and scientists ready to go underground with this project. All we need is someone with your experience and vision to lead it." Elias glanced back at the holographic billboards, their glowing words a constant reminder of his failure, or perhaps his opportunity. "All right," he said finally. "But if we're going to do this, we're doing it right. No half measures." Linnea smiled. "I wouldn't have it any other way." The underground lab was nothing like the sterile, bureaucratic environments Elias was used to. Here, innovation thrived on chaos. Engineers shouted over the hum of machinery, holographic blueprints flickered in midair, and the scent of soldered circuits filled the air. It was a symphony of controlled disorder, and Elias felt an odd sense of belonging. Linnea guided him to a central workstation where a group of young scientists were gathered. One of them, a wiry man with thick glasses, looked up and grinned. "Commander Kane, welcome to the Madhouse. I'm Theo, lead engineer on Project Legacy." Elias nodded, his gaze sweeping over the room. "Project Legacy, huh? Sounds ambitious." Theo chuckled. "Ambition's all we've got at this point." Linnea stepped forward, placing the glowing sphere on the workstation. "The nanite core is the foundation. With enough time and resources, we can build a fleet of adaptive drones capable of both defense and exploration. Imagine an armada, built by humans, for humans. No Galactic Concord oversight. No council interference. Elias frowned. That's a bold vision, Linnea. But bold visions tend to attract bold enemies. Linnea shrugged. Let them come. We'll be ready. As the team delved into technical discussions, Elias found himself absorbing their energy. The stakes were high, but the potential was undeniable. This wasn't just about reclaiming his reputation, it was about ensuring Earth's place in the galaxy, on its own terms. The first test of the nanite core came days later. In a dimly lit chamber lined with reinforced panels, the team activated the device. The sphere hovered in midair, its glow intensifying as it began to emit streams of shimmering particles. These particles coalesced into a small, insect-like drone that buzzed with life. Success! Theo exclaimed, pumping his fist in the air. But their celebration was short-lived. Moments later, the chamber's alarms blared, and the drone began to shake violently. Sparks flew as its form destabilized, and within seconds, it imploded, leaving behind a cloud of ash. Linnea cursed under her breath. Damn it! The self-replication protocol overloaded the core. Elias stepped forward, his expression calm but firm. This is just a setback. We'll analyze the data and try again. Failure isn't the end, it's part of the process. His words seemed to steady the team, and they returned to their work with renewed focus. For the first time in weeks, Elias felt a sense of purpose. They were up against impossible odds, but they weren't backing down. Days turned into weeks, and the lab became a hive of activity. The team faced countless challenges, from unstable cores to power shortages, but each obstacle only seemed to strengthen their resolve. And through it all, Elias found himself stepping into a role he hadn't played in years, a leader, not of politicians, but of dreamers and doers. One evening, as the team worked late into the night, Linnea approached Elias with a tablet. I thought you'd want to see this, she said, handing it to him. On the screen was a live feed of their latest prototype, a sleek, bird-like drone soaring through an artificial wind tunnel. Its movements were fluid and precise, a testament to the team's ingenuity. Elias watched in awe. We're getting closer, he said, his voice filled with quiet determination. Linnea nodded. Closer than they ever expected us to be. As the drone completed its final maneuver, Elias felt a surge of hope. They were building more than machines, they were building a legacy. And for the first time since his banishment, he believed in the future. The initial success of the prototype ignited a newfound sense of urgency and determination within the team. As the sleek, bird-like drone glided flawlessly through test after test, Elias and Linnea knew they were onto something revolutionary. But just as progress began to snowball, the first cracks in their plan began to surface. It started with whispers. Rumors of unusual energy signatures deep below the exile district had begun to circulate among the alien traders. The Galactic Concord, always on the lookout for unauthorized technology development, had flagged Earth's activities as potentially destabilizing. Linnea intercepted a coded transmission from a Concord scout ship patrolling the sector, its ominous tone setting her on edge. They know something's happening, she told Elias, her voice tight with worry as she handed him the transcript. It's only a matter of time before they come knocking. Elias read the message, his jaw tightening. The Council's influence extended far beyond Earth, and if the Concord caught wind of Project Legacy, it wouldn't just be shut down, it would be dismantled piece by piece. Everyone involved would be labeled a traitor. Then we'll have to accelerate the timeline, Elias said, handing the tablet back. If they're coming, we need to show them we're not just playing around. We need something that can hold its ground. Linnea nodded, though her eyes betrayed her concern. That means skipping a lot of testing phases. If we push these prototypes into production too fast, we could be sitting on a pile of flying bombs. Elias smirked. Flying bombs are better than sitting ducks. The decision to expedite the project created a whirlwind of activity. Engineers worked double shifts, while scientists ran simulations and stress tests at a breakneck pace. The underground lab was a chaotic symphony of sparks, holographic screens, and the hum of machinery. Each failure, of which there were many, only fueled the team's resolve. Theo, who had taken to sleeping on a cot in the corner of the lab, emerged one morning clutching a new design. "If we're going to survive Concorde interference," he said, barely able to contain his excitement, "we need something versatile. Something that can adapt in real time." He placed a holographic blueprint on the central table. The design was unlike anything they had attempted before, a modular drone capable of transforming mid-flight to suit its environment. Its nanite-infused core allowed for near-instantaneous adjustments, from aerodynamic shifts to weapons deployment. Elias studied the blueprint, his mind racing. "How long will it take to build?" Theo shrugged. "A week. Maybe less if we work non-stop." "We don't have a week," Linnea interjected, her tone urgent. "Concorde scouts have been lingering longer in orbit. I wouldn't be surprised if they're scanning the surface for us." Elias looked at the team, exhaustion etched into their faces but determination burning in their eyes. "Then we make it happen in 3 days. Whatever it takes." The next 72 hours blurred into a feverish haze of activity. Linnea barely left her workstation, fine-tuning the adaptive algorithms that would allow the drone to think and react faster than any pilot could hope to. Theo and his engineers worked with surgical precision, assembling the prototype piece by piece. Elias, though no longer a technician, found ways to contribute, reviewing designs, organizing resources, and keeping morale high. By the third day, the team gathered around the prototype in tense silence. The drone, dubbed Vanguard, stood on its launch pad like a predator poised to strike. Its sleek black frame reflected the dim light of the lab, and its modular wings twitched slightly as if testing their newfound capabilities. Linnea ran a final diagnostic. "Everything checks out. At least, on paper." Elias stepped forward, his gaze fixed on the drone. "Paper doesn't win wars. Let's see what it can do." The team activated the launch sequence. The lab filled with the hum of power surging through the drone systems. Seconds later, Vanguard shot into the air, its modular wings unfolding in a fluid, almost organic motion. Holographic screens tracked its movements as it navigated a series of obstacles designed to push it to its limits. At first, everything seemed to go smoothly. Vanguard weaved through narrow passages, adjusted to sudden wind bursts, and even simulated an attack run on a decoy target. But as it executed a high-speed maneuver, one of its modular wings hesitated. The drone spiraled out of control, slamming into a reinforced barrier and crumpling to the ground. The team erupted into frantic activity, analyzing data and troubleshooting the malfunction. Linnea buried her face in her hands. "It's the adaptive core. It's still trying to process too much at once." Elias placed a hand on her shoulder. "We'll figure it out. But we need to do it fast." As they worked to repair the drone, an alert flashed on one of the lab's monitors. Theo swore under his breath. "We've got company. Concorde patrols just entered the exile district." Elias straightened, his mind racing. "How many?" "3 ships," Theo replied. "Looks like they're scanning for energy signatures." Linnea looked at Elias, her expression grim. "We're out of time." Elias made a snap decision. "We're launching Vanguard now." The team protested, but he silenced them with a raised hand. "If the Concorde finds us, this whole operation is over. Vanguard is our only chance to show them we're not defenseless." The drone was hastily repaired and moved to the lab's launch bay. As the doors opened, exposing the bay to the night sky, the team held their breath. The Concorde ships hovered in the distance, their searchlights cutting through the darkness. Linnea activated the launch sequence. "Let's hope this works." Vanguard shot into the air once more, its sleek frame disappearing into the night. The Concorde ships immediately picked up on its energy signature, redirecting their searchlights and firing warning shots. But this time, the drone's adaptive systems performed flawlessly. It dodged the attacks with ease, its modular wings shifting to optimize speed and agility. Elias watched the monitors, his heart pounding. Come on, Vanguard. Show them what you've got. The drone engaged the Concorde ships, using its advanced targeting systems to disable their weaponry without causing catastrophic damage. It was a calculated show of force, enough to demonstrate Earth's capabilities without sparking an all-out war. The Concorde ships, clearly outmatched, retreated. As the team celebrated, Linnea turned to Elias, her eyes shining with relief. We did it. Elias nodded, a rare smile crossing his face. This is just the beginning. The success of Vanguard in repelling the Concorde scouts had bought the team precious time, but the respite was short-lived. Within days, reports of their defiance had spread across the Galactic Concorde. While the retreating ships had been disabled rather than destroyed, their humiliation was enough to spark outrage among the alien coalition's leadership. For Earth, the message was clear: retaliation was inevitable. In the underground lab, tension hung thick in the air. The once celebratory mood had been replaced with grim determination. Elias stood at the center of the room, holographic projections of starship formations and alien weaponry floating around him. They're coming, he said, his voice steady but cold. The scouts were just the first wave. We have to assume the Concorde is preparing for a full-scale incursion. Linnea leaned against the table, exhaustion etched into her face. We've pushed Vanguard as far as we can. It's good, but it's one drone. If they send a fleet, it won't be enough. Elias nodded. Then we don't send one drone. We send an army. The team exchanged uncertain glances. Theo was the first to speak. An army? With what resources? We're barely keeping this place running as it is. We don't need traditional resources, Elias replied. We have the nanite cores. If we can replicate Vanguard using the adaptive core's self-building protocols, we can scale up production exponentially. Linnea frowned. That's a massive gamble. The adaptive core is still unstable. If something goes wrong during replication. We don't have a choice, Elias interrupted. The Concorde won't wait for us to perfect this. It's now or never. After a moment of silence, Linnea sighed. All right. But if we're doing this, we're doing it smart. We program safeguards into the replication protocols. No more implosions. The team got to work, their movements fueled by a mix of fear and resolve. Every moment counted, and the pressure was suffocating. As the first replication test began, the lab's atmosphere was electric with anticipation. The nanite core glowed brightly, its adaptive algorithms spinning to life. Streams of nanites poured from the core, coalescing into a second Vanguard drone. Then a third. Then a fourth. The process was mesmerizing, the drones forming with uncanny precision. It's working, Theo whispered, his voice tinged with awe. But the celebration was premature. A sudden burst of static crackled through the lab's speakers, and the newly formed drones began to twitch erratically. Their modular wings extended and retracted in chaotic bursts, and one drone slammed into the wall, leaving a trail of sparks. Shut it down! Linnea shouted, frantically typing commands into her console. The replication process halted, and the malfunctioning drones collapsed into piles of inert nanites. Linnea slammed her fist on the table. Damn it! The adaptive algorithms are still overloading. Elias rubbed his temples, frustration boiling beneath his calm exterior. We're running out of time. We need those drones operational. Linnea hesitated, then spoke with quiet determination. There's one more thing we can try. But it's risky. Elias turned to her. Riskier than what we're already doing? She nodded. We could use a direct neural interface. If we connect the human brain to the adaptive core, we might be able to stabilize the algorithms in real time. The drones would respond to the pilot's instincts, eliminating the need for full automation. The room fell silent. Neural interfaces were experimental at best, dangerous at worst. The risks included neural overload, permanent brain damage, or worse. But the idea was tantalizing. "I'll do it," Elias said without hesitation. Linnea's eyes widened. "Elias, no. You're the only one who can lead this team. If something happens to you..." "If something happens to me, at least I'll have gone down fighting," he replied firmly. "This is my responsibility. I won't ask anyone else to take the risk." Reluctantly, Linnea prepared the neural interface. The device was a sleek helmet lined with glowing nodes, each one designed to connect to specific regions of the brain. As Elias seated himself in the pilot's chair, the weight of his decision settled over him. "You don't have to do this," Linnea said quietly, her hand resting on his shoulder. "Yes, I do," he replied. "This is bigger than me. Bigger than all of us." The moment the interface activated, Elias felt a surge of sensations unlike anything he had ever experienced. His mind merged with the adaptive core, and suddenly, he wasn't just controlling the drones, he was the drones. He could feel their sleek frames, their modular wings, their raw potential. Through his neural link, Elias guided the replication process. The drones formed perfectly, their movements smooth and precise. Each one felt like an extension of his own body, a seamless blend of man and machine. "It's working," Linnea said, her voice filled with awe. "Elias, you're stabilizing them." But there was no time to celebrate. The lab's proximity sensors blared, and the team rushed to the monitors. A Concorde fleet had entered the atmosphere, their ships casting ominous shadows over the exile district. "They're here," Theo said, his voice trembling. Elias opened his eyes, the neural interface still glowing. "Launch the drones." Linnea hesitated. "Elias, if they destroy the adaptive core..." "They won't," he said firmly. "Trust me." The drones shot out of the launch bay, their sleek forms glinting in the sunlight. Elias guided them with precision, his mind racing as he calculated their movements. The Concorde ships opened fire, but the drones dodged effortlessly, their modular wings shifting to evade the incoming blasts. Elias pushed the drones into an offensive formation. They targeted the Concorde ship's engines, disabling them with surgical strikes. One by one, the alien vessels faltered, their weapons silenced. But the battle wasn't over. The Concorde's flagship, a massive dreadnought bristling with weaponry, loomed on the horizon. It launched a barrage of energy blasts, forcing the drones into a defensive retreat. Elias gritted his teeth, the strain of the neural interface beginning to take its toll. His vision blurred, and his head throbbed with pain. But he refused to back down. "Focus fire on the dreadnought's core," he commanded through gritted teeth. The drones swarmed the flagship, their combined firepower piercing its defenses. The dreadnought shuddered under the assault, its energy core destabilizing. In a final, desperate move, the Concorde ship unleashed a massive energy pulse, aimed directly at the lab. "Elias, they're targeting us!" Linnea shouted. Elias closed his eyes, his mind racing. He guided one of the drones into the path of the pulse, using its adaptive core to absorb the energy. The drone exploded in a brilliant burst of light, but the lab was spared. The remaining drones regrouped, delivering a final blow to the dreadnought. The massive ship crumbled, its debris raining down harmlessly over the exile district. The battle was over. Elias removed the neural interface, his body trembling with exhaustion. The team erupted into cheers, but Linnea rushed to his side, concern etched into her face. "You did it," she said, her voice shaking. "But you look like hell." Elias managed a weak smile. "Worth it." For a moment, the lab was filled with a sense of triumph. But they all knew this was just the beginning. The Concorde wouldn't forget this defeat, and Earth's fight for independence was far from over. The aftermath of the battle left the underground lab in a tense state of recovery. Though the Concorde fleet had been driven back, the cost of the victory was evident. Elias sat slumped in the pilot's chair, the neural interface discarded beside him. His face was pale, and every movement sent a jolt of pain through his body. But his resolve had only hardened. Around him, the team worked tirelessly, repairing the damage to the lab and salvaging what remained of the drones. Linnea stood by his side, her expression a mix of relief and worry. "You pushed yourself too far," she said, handing him a cup of water. The neural interface wasn't meant to handle that level of strain. Elias took a sip, his hands trembling slightly. "It held long enough. That's what matters." Linnea shook her head. "This isn't sustainable, Elias. The Concord knows we're a threat now. They'll come back, and next time, they won't hold back." Elias looked at her, his eyes fierce despite his exhaustion. "Then we don't hold back either. We've proven we can fight. Now we need to show them we can win." As the days passed, the team regrouped and refocused. The drones were rebuilt, this time incorporating the lessons learned from the battle. Linnea and Theo worked around the clock to refine the adaptive core, ensuring it could handle more drones simultaneously without requiring a direct neural link. They called the new system Hive Mind, a networked intelligence that allowed the drones to operate as a collective unit. Elias, despite Linnea's protests, threw himself back into the fight. He spent hours strategizing, analyzing the Concord's tactics, and preparing for the inevitable counterattack. The team's determination was matched only by their resourcefulness. Every setback became an opportunity, every challenge a chance to grow stronger. The Concord's retaliation came sooner than expected. This time, they didn't send scouts or a small fleet. They sent an armada, dozens of ships armed with the most advanced weaponry in the galaxy. Their goal was clear: to crush Earth's resistance once and for all. The Exile district was plunged into chaos as the Concord fleet descended. Civilians fled in panic, and the skies lit up with the glow of energy blasts. But in the underground lab, the mood was calm and focused. The team had been preparing for this moment, and they were ready. Elias stood at the center of the command room, his presence commanding despite the exhaustion etched into his features. "This is it," he said, his voice steady. "We've shown them we can fight. Now we show them we can win." Linnea activated the Hive Mind system, and the lab came alive with activity. Dozens of drones launched into the sky, their sleek frames glinting in the sunlight. The Concord ships immediately opened fire, but the drones moved as one, their collective intelligence allowing them to anticipate and evade the attacks. The battle was unlike anything the Concord had faced before. The drones were relentless, their adaptive cores allowing them to evolve in real time. They exploited weaknesses in the enemy's formations, targeting critical systems with pinpoint precision. For every drone that fell, another took its place, the Hive Mind ensuring the fight never lost its momentum. Elias watched the battle unfold on the monitors, his fists clenched. "Push them back," he muttered. "Show them what we're made of." Despite the drone's impressive performance, the Concord's armada was vast and powerful. The battle raged on, each side refusing to yield. As the hours passed, the team began to feel the strain. The Hive Mind system was pushed to its limits, and the lab's energy reserves were dangerously low. "We're running out of power," Theo said, his voice strained. "If we don't find a way to turn this around, we're done for." Elias's mind raced. He knew they couldn't keep this up much longer. The Concord's forces were overwhelming, and the Hive Mind could only do so much. But then an idea struck him, a risky, desperate plan that could either save them or doom them entirely. "Linnea," he said, turning to her. "What if we use the Hive Mind to turn their own ships against them?" Linnea frowned. "You mean hack into their systems? That's ambitious. And nearly impossible." "Nearly isn't the same as impossible," Elias said. "The Hive Mind's adaptive algorithms are designed to learn and evolve. If we can establish a connection, even for a few seconds, we might be able to override their command systems." Linnea hesitated, then nodded. "It's a long shot, but it's worth trying." The team sprang into action, reconfiguring the Hive Mind to interface with the Concord systems. It was a race against time, the lab's energy reserves dwindling as the battle outside reached its peak. Finally, the connection was established, a tenuous link that flickered like a candle in the wind. Do it, Elias said. Linnea activated the override, and for a moment, nothing happened. Then, one by one, the Concorde's ships began to falter. Their weapons went offline, their engines sputtered, and their formations collapsed into chaos. The drones seized the opportunity, launching a final, coordinated assault that sent the armada into full retreat. As the last Concorde ship disappeared into the stars, the team erupted into cheers. The lab was filled with a mix of relief and triumph, the weight of their victory sinking in. But Elias knew this was only the beginning. Linnea approached him, her expression a mix of pride and concern. "We did it," she said. "But they'll be back. You know that, right?" Elias nodded. "Let them come. We've shown them we're not afraid to fight. And now, we're stronger than ever." Linnea smiled. "You're impossible, you know that?" "Maybe," Elias said with a smirk. "But impossible is what we do best." As the team celebrated, Elias stepped outside, the cool night air filling his lungs. Above him, the sky was clear, the stars shining brightly. For the first time in a long time, he felt a sense of hope. They had been banished, cast out, and left to fend for themselves. But they had forged a legacy, one that would endure, no matter what came next. And so, Earth's resistance was born. A small, determined team had stood against the might of the galaxy and prevailed. Their victory was more than just a battle won, it was a testament to humanity's resilience, ingenuity, and unyielding spirit. And as Elias gazed at the stars, he knew their story was far from over.